In fact, with things like Common Core, kids who exceed the standard are actually a bigger problem than kids who fail it. Because you can always dumb down a standard. Every time you lower the standard a tick, more kids get included. Every time you raise the standard a tick, more kids fall off. Common Core, as Professor Milgram says, is aiming for a culture where every kid knows a little bit of math, but no kid knows more than anybody else. And the only way you do that is to punish the kids who really understand math. How? Well, take a listen to this. Hard to make this up. The young woman in the video, she is a community organizer from Chicago. And now she's the curriculum director at Illinois Gray Lake School System. In this short clip, she lays out the fundamental philosophy of Common Core math.
So even under the new Common Core, even if they said 3 times 4 was 11, if they were able to explain their reasoning and explain how they came up with their answer really in words and oral explanations, and they showed it in the picture, but they just got the final number wrong, we're really more focusing on how and the way we...
In other words, if a kid can explain why they thought a wrong answer was right, they get credit for it. Not partial credit. We're much more concerned about the thinking. And look, one of the primary ways, as Milgram reminds us, that Common Core math is taught to elementary school kids, the youngest kids, where math foundations are built, teachers don't teach it anymore. You take a group of elementary school kids, you put them in groups of 2 and 3, and you hand them simple math problems. The purpose of the assignment for the kids is not to get the right answer. It's to get all 3 kids in the group to agree on what they think the answer is. So we have a ridiculous situation in New York where a 2nd grade boy, 3rd grade boy, is taking a math exam, and the question is 7 times 6. He writes 42, but he gets the answer marked wrong. And the teacher writes, the other 2 kids in your peer group agreed on a different answer. So they got it right. You didn't agree with your peers, and so he got it marked wrong, even though he was the only one in the group with the right answer. And so, as Milgram points out, what do we mean by social justice? It's not fair that some kids are better at certain subjects than others. The way we write that social injustice is to insist that all kids become the same math student. And can we do the math here for just a minute that your schools won't do? If you're going to get 60 million kids to the exact same place in math, is that going to be a high or a low place? Doesn't it have to be? It has to be. Simple, lowest common denominator, that's a math term, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not. And then you get this, right? Professor Milgram also, this is absolutely shocking. The woman in this video, the mother, who you don't see her, you hear her. The mother in this video, 3rd grade daughter, 8-year-old, she's a university math professor. And she cannot help her daughter, her 8-year-old, with her Common Core math homework, right? And so, watch this little video unfold, and you'll get a sense of what we're talking about. Here's your difficult math problem at 1568, 1423, and 680.
So what I want you to do is, can you solve that problem showing me the way that you learned how to solve it in school? And talk to me while you're solving it.
So we learned that a big square like this is 100. So we could make that 100 into a cube, which would make 1,000.
So a square is 100 and a cube is 1,000.
So let's just say that's 1,000. And now we still have to make the 500. Could make that into 5 cubes.
So you notice how nobody's adding anything? This is just what you have to do to get the first number on the board.
And we have 60. And this line.
The lines are tens. Now you got to put the second number on the board.
1,000. The dots represent what?
Okay.
So now we have to add all of these together. So you could make 1,000. All of these together is 400. Now you need 600 more. So now I'm going to write the numbers down. So we have 1,000 plus, let's just say 3,000. Because we have 3,000 plus 170. So now we can erase all the sheets and hundreds and tens and eights.
I would lose my mind.
I'm already confused.
So we can just add, that's a total of 30,766.
Okay, now that problem you just solved took about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what
Now listen to this.
in school. But at home, I'm taught how to stack. And we're not allowed to do stacking in school. That's why we have to do
Common Core prohibits this.
So I'm going
If you do this, they won't give you credit for the answer. That's stacking math. You are prohibited from doing it in Common Core.
What are you thinking? You're looking
I
at your
failed.
problems.
We got 2 different ones.
You got 2 different answers. What do you think happened?
Maybe I counted wrong.
Looks like you did the stacking correctly, and that took you about a minute.
I think something messed up.
Alright, you get it, right? That's a smart little girl. Unlike me at her age, she can intuitively get math. You see how mathematically efficient it is to put the numbers and stack them? I'm not kidding you. You are not allowed to do it in Common Core. If you teach your kid that at home, and he goes and takes a test in a Common Core classroom and does it that way, they mark it wrong. As Milgram points out, look, I don't want to be glib. I get that kids learn differently. I get that there may be some kid out there somewhere who could benefit from doing all the drawings. But see, this is another way that Common Core is deemed developmentally inappropriate for little kids. If you're in 6th grade, or you're 5 or 6 or 7 years old, you do not, your brain has not developed enough to be abstract yet. You've been around 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds. They're literal. They're not abstract. When you take a 7-year-old and you make them take a number, which is a concrete thing, and convert it to a picture, most of them can't do it. Their brains haven't evolved that way. When Washington State said at the youngest grade, this is completely developmentally inappropriate for our kids, that's what they meant. And as Milgram rightly points out, there is no justification for getting rid of things like stacking, which are that's math, right? Listing them, what you're doing, whatever you want to call what you're doing in Common Core, it's really not math anymore. And if you're a kid, if you're one of those kids who can really excel at math, what's this going to do to you? You have a kid like me, right? If you had put me in a group of 2 other kids, me and 2 other kids in 3rd grade math, and all I have to do is agree, I'm going to take the kid with the sweater vest and the glasses. If you put me at a whiteboard, 8 minutes to do a simple math problem, when in a 30 seconds you can do the stacking. If you're, as Milgram points out, if you're spending so much time working these ridiculous problems, wasting class time not teaching but putting kids in groups, that explains why in every high-achieving math country on earth, all the places where they educate their kids very well, places like Sweden and South Korea, where they do really good math teaching, they start serious algebra in 7th grade or even in 6th grade. In No Child Left Behind America, our kids don't even start algebra until 8th grade. And under Common Core, algebra is pushed into high school. And as Milgram points out, if your kids aren't starting serious algebra until they're freshmen in high school, there's no way they get to calculus anymore. In fact, school districts all across the country are taking calculus out of the high school rotation because the kids won't get there. And they're not going to offer it to the 1 or the 3 or the 10 kids who are good enough to take it. They're not going to offer it because that wouldn't be socially just. And so what do you got? Again, I say this because this may be the important, if you're at all concerned about the future of this country in math, science, and technology, this may be the most important video I show you all night. Don't listen to me. Listen to them. That's Jason Zimba. There he is. He is one of the 5 people who wrote the standards, more or less. He is the man most responsible for the math standards. He is called the architect of the Common Core math. In this short video clip, you won't see her. he's being interviewed by Sandy Stotsky, your Massachusetts Sandy. And she gets him to admit on camera that we didn't write Common Core math to prepare your kids for, they will not be college ready when they're done with it. And they will not be prepared for STEM careers because of our math program. He admits it. Him, listen.
The definition of college readiness, I think it's a fair critique that it's a minimal definition of college readiness.
Dr. Stotsky, your definition of college readiness, you're right. What we've done is a minimal definition of college readiness. Listen to that again.
The definition of college readiness, I think it's a fair critique that it's a minimal definition of college readiness.
Or some colleges.
Well, for the colleges most kids go to, but not that most parents probably aspire, right?
It's not for STEM, it's not for international.
That's true. It's not only not for STEM, it's also not for selective colleges.
It's not, every time she criticizes him, he criticizes himself more. Not only is it not meant to prepare your kids for STEM careers, it's not even going to prepare your kids for math at selective colleges. What does he mean by that? He's going to go on to give the example of Berkeley, UC Berkeley. And what he's going to say is, if your kid wants to get into UC Berkeley, she better have pre-calculus, even if she doesn't want to be an engineer, but that's disarming, that's deceiving. Do you know what we mean when we say a selective college? A selective college is any college that has a basic math entrance requirement. All of them do. Go back, I won't stop at this time. The end gets even better. Listen to this one more time.
The definition of college readiness, I think it's a fair critique that it's a minimal definition of college readiness.
Or some colleges.
Well, for the colleges most kids go to, but not that most parents probably aspire, right?
It's not for STEM, it's not for international.
That's true. It's not only not for STEM, it's also not for selective colleges that, for example, UC Berkeley, even whether you're going to be an engineer or not, you better have pre-calculus to get into UC Berkeley.
We have engineering colleges.
And that's
scientific.
That's true. I think the third pathway goes a lot towards that, but your issue is really broader than that.
Oh yes.
So I just wanted to make sure that we got that
I'm
out.
not just thinking of selective colleges. There's a much broader question here.
That's right. It's both, I think, in the sense of being clear about what this college readiness does.
Listen to Sandy.
And that's the big subject.
But not to call something college ready when it only applies to a certain kind of college and a certain lower level of mathematical expertise that won't buy you far on the international market in most major disciplines of technology, economics, business, and so on.
All he can do is shake his head yes. And if you think I've edited the video, you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. I'm telling you, he beclowns himself much more in the bigger video. How's that for a word? Yeah, but you heard it. This is the guy that wrote the standards, telling you we didn't mean this for STEM careers. We didn't mean this for math at the best schools. This is, as Milgram says it is. In order to make a bad math student like me feel better, you're going to hold down a really good math student. In order to make a bad reader feel better about himself, you're going to hold me down. What would my life have been like if I was stuck in third grade reading third grade books instead of the high school books I was reading for 7 years before I got there? What would have happened to whatever love or ability I had in reading or writing? But this is the objective. How about this? Second grade math problem. Tell how to make 10 when adding 8 plus 5. Little boy writes, you cannot make 10 with 8 plus 5. Teacher marks it wrong and writes, yes you can. Take 2 from 5 and add it to 8. 8 plus 2 equals 10, then add 3. And I suppose if you think about that long enough, it makes a kind of sense. But you're not doing math anymore. This is math Mad Libs. What you're playing is word games with numbers. And for somebody who is numerically gifted, you're going to destroy it. This is not math anymore. What are you doing here across the board? And the science. I told you they're already putting science in your schools, even though you never voted for it or took it. Watch this little ditty.
So do you understand why this is inappropriate, Audrey?
Audrey
Basie just wanted to get her bio homework on DNA done when she got to a question that stumped her. It reads, the sister of the mom above also had issues with finding out who the father of her baby was. She had the state take a blood test of potential fathers. Based on the information in this table, why was the baby taken away by the state after the test? As if that question isn't tacky enough, look at the potential fathers. Bartender, guy at the club, cab driver, or flight attendant. Father Larry Basie took one look at this piece of homework and flipped.
What are they teaching? What is this? I couldn't come up with the words. I'm like, oh my God. It's teaching them that it's okay to not know who it is because you can have the state help you. And if they can't help you, they're going to take your child away. And it's not the way it is.
Were you fired up?
Oh, I was beyond fired up last night.
But you know, what really misses both the reporter and the dad missed the real point of that assignment. This is a basic science problem using math, right? It's probabilities. Remember when we were doing this? It was always a white bunny has pink eyes, right? And you did it that way. But now you've got fly the friendliest guy with flight attendants apparently joining the 300-mile club. The way they frame, but even that's not the big problem.
Parents don't own their children, the state does.
You're right. But the big problem with this, think about it. All that math and all that science isn't what the point of the question was. After you do the ratios, tell us why the state took the baby away from the mother. Science questions, math questions get reduced to exercises in sociology. In other words, the politically correct sociological conclusion is more important than the science in science class, and more important than the math in math class. Reading about global warming and President Obama's own executive orders is more important than reading great books in English class. Because it makes a point that is political and sociological. You're right, sir. They're reshaping your kids through education. They're de-emphasizing knowledge, learning, and achievement, and they are overlaying all of this with very specific political objectives, all of them ideological too. And then one more of these. You just type in stupid Common Core math in Google. You'll find 10,000. If you think I'm cherry picking them. How about this? For a fourth grade math class. Simple ratios, right? This is for fourth graders. First of all, notice the title of the math assignment. It's called Determining Fairness. Please explain to me what math has to do with fairness. Fairness is a value judgment. It's an ethical, moral judgment. It has nothing to do with math. And yet, determine fairness and always work with a partner. Write a ratio for each sentence. Compare the ratios. If they are equal, you must write, it is fair. If they are not equal, then the answer is, it is not fair. So the purpose of the math has no purpose. You do the ratio only to determine what's fair and what's not fair. If the numbers come out equally, that's fair. This is Marxism. This is pure capitalist critique, isn't it? Any ratio that doesn't come out exactly equal is unfair. Any ratio that comes out perfectly equal is fairness. What are you teaching your kids? What are you using math to convey to them? And I love this. So here, you pay $184 to 2 tickets to a concert. I pay $266 for 3 tickets to the same concert. Is this fair? What business is it of theirs if I want to spend $1,000 for a ticket? What in the world? And I love to justify your conclusions, right? And where do you think they're going to get their information on fair and unfair? Right? In math class, justify conclusions. What information can you use to justify your conclusion about fair or unfair? Where do you think they're going to go to get that information? What does any of this have to do with why you send your kids to school in math? I mean, we could spend all day doing this. I'm just going to blow you away with this little gem. Dr. Milgram's right. This is social justice. It is liberal conceptions of social justice that this country is unfair. It's unfair that some kids do better than others. We're going to fix it so no kid does better than any other kid. We're going to fix it that no kid gets to jump ahead in any area from any other kid. We're going to keep all kids the same kid. is the Irvine Unified School District, the whole school district in Irvine, California. There are over 45 of these now, different state school districts. What happened? In Irvine, California, moms and dads started freaking out. Because by the time their sons and daughters were in 4th and 5th grade, they couldn't answer basic simple math questions in their head. They couldn't add numbers. Moms would ask their kids, multiply 8 times. Oh, one other thing that they don't do in Common Core, they prohibit you from memorizing the multiplication tables. If you do math by multiplication tables, but you don't do the drawings, you just have it in your head, you don't get credit for it. You have to do it their way. So kids couldn't do it. So the school district, so moms and dads freaked out, started hiring tutors, and began to have their kids work ahead in math. The district posted to their public website for all people to see a warning and a threat to moms and dads who were trying to help their kids. Here's the warning. The links on this page are intended to support the classroom instruction that your child receives from his teacher. It is not appropriate to go ahead of the classroom instruction or to use this site to have your child work on math intended for subsequent grade levels. That's the warning. Here's the threat. Your child's math instruction and math placement will not change as a result of working ahead. This means that your child will continue to work in the grade level appropriate math regardless of any work that is done and turned into the teachers. Your 3rd grader might be ready for geometry. Your 7th grader might be ready for calculus. Tough beans. They're going to stay in their classes with their peers. No one's going anywhere. So stop trying to move your kids ahead. You've got American schools, educators threatening children to don't you dare step out of where you're supposed to be according to your class rank. You're not going anywhere. We've got schools all across this country getting rid of valedictorians, getting rid of honors programs because it's socially unfair. It's not right to reward the kids who do well. One school in California had 400 graduating seniors. Rather than honor the top performers, they gave 400 valedictory awards. Every kid got one, right? Because that's so. No, I don't think they had to listen to 400. I don't think so. And by the way, about 5 months ago, I was giving this very talk in Irvine, California, and sitting right in the front row were 2 school board members. They hung their heads in shame when I did this. And 1 week later, they took this down from the website. I've got all the screenshots to show you where it was. They haven't changed the policy. They've just taken it down from the website. And there are dozens of other school districts that have something very similar to this, threatening moms and dads. Don't work any more than you should. You're not going anywhere. I'm going to leave you with this.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, I'm going to leave you with this. This is the second part of the Common Core copyright. I saved it until the very end. I've had over a dozen lawyers look at this, and they all say the same thing. This is not standard. If Common Core is just a benign set of standards, no curriculum, no pedagogy, if it's just basic standards that we want our kids to get to, why did the Common Core people indemnify themselves this way? Listen to what they said in their own contract. Under no circumstances shall the NGA Center or the CCSSO, individually or jointly, be liable for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, exemplary, consequential, or punitive damages, however caused and on any legal theory of liability, whether for contract, tort, strict liability, or a combination thereof, including negligence or otherwise, arising in any way out of use of the Common Core state standards, even if we have been advised of the possibility of such risk and potential damage beforehand. You can't sue us. Even if you tell us that our standards are developmentally inappropriate, and if you prove to us that our standards are hurting and scarring children, you can't sue us. You can't hold us accountable for any of this, even if you warn us it's bad. And every lawyer said the same thing. 2 things. One, this would never hold up in court. You can't do something bad and wave it away by saying, tough noogies, you can't sue me. Number one. And number two, they all agree on this, that this is staggering in its reach. You would not, if this was just a set of standards, no way would you go to these lengths. They know what they're doing. They knew what they did. This is not an accident. This is not a conspiracy. It's not a right-wing fantasy. This is the reality of what they've done. It's in their own documents. Now look, you heard Bill Gates, you heard David Coleman, you heard Jason Zimba. You've heard these people tell you what they want to do. You've heard them do it. You know you had better standards. You got rid of them for this. We're beginning to see the impact of this across the country. It's horrifying. Kids not wanting to go to school. Kids hurting themselves. Kids rebelling. Kids freaking out. Kids who love math, quitting math, wanting no part of it. We've got CPA grandfathers who cannot help their children with their math homework. And as Milgram points out, there's the only way you would do this. There's only one answer, Milgram says, for creating a math program that prohibits parents from helping. You want to separate them from their children. There is no other argument. There is no other answer to be made. Only the state schools can help the kids with the math now. Not you, not me, not the CPAs, not the bankers, not the mathematicians, the university math professors. The only people in charge of this are the state school staff. That's what they're doing, top to bottom. Well, I thank you very much for sitting through that. And can I make one little point? And I hate to be the guy doing this but I think I have to. On the way out, particularly if you came in late, I do not charge a speaker fee to be here. They don't pay me for these talks. I don't ask for any money. But the people who help me come here put me up in hotels and fly me out here. So if you've got a couple bucks you can throw in the basket, that's just going to go to reimburse people like you who brought me here. I don't benefit from it. Maybe if you can give them a couple bucks to recoup that. This room alone costs, I think, $350 just to host us, right? So no one's making money off that, least of all me. But if you can throw a few bucks in, that will simply go to cover the costs that were laid out here. Thank you very much for listening, and I will take your questions. Okay, sure. And by the way, that's the website if you want to reach me. Easier than that would be, I'll give you a card. I'm going to step in the back, and we're going to do the, come on and back, and because not everybody wants to say. So I'll take some questions from you in the back while they finish up.
But yeah, by the way, all these slides, I saw you taking pictures. Yes. We can give you copies of them.
Yeah, I'll give you everything. You need to take pictures. You can have the whole darn thing free of charge. No one's going to ask you for anything. No one's going to add you to any mailing list. You email me, no questions asked. We'll just send them all to you. Right? Free of charge.
Yeah, just a short call to action. You notice